the reason we talk about it and be like, yeah, we've been there. Yeah, I struggle with this, is so that hopefully somebody goes, oh, thank God. I'm not the only one that's dealing with this. And maybe it's okay to talk to somebody about it.
Welcome, everybody. This is KMKanDrum, and this is Q&A with KMKanDrum, where I do a lot of questions to musicians that I personally know and I also look up to and sometimes envy. And today we have Eric Henninger from Attic Drums. Eric, how's it going?
Going well, man. Thanks for having me on. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too. I mean, we just did last week, we did an interview for your channel. So we're trying to keep it fresh and go right back and do an interview for my channel. And I don't know if you've watched any of my older interviews, but I have this like certain format that I like to do, at least for the opener, just to try to like break the ice. And I know we kind of already broken the ice with our interview last week, but it's kind of like a fun type of thing just to get the conversation going. So my format for at least the beginning of the interview is a 3-part format. I ask you a handful of questions that are drum related, because we're both drummers, and most of the people that are probably going to be watching this are drummers as well, so everyone can relate to those kind of questions. The next would be some job related questions. So usually the way that I frame it is I am an HR person or somebody that's looking to hire somebody, and I'm asking you as somebody who's looking to get hired.
Okay.
And then the third batch of questions, which I already know you're a happily married family man. So these questions might be in some sort of parallel universe or something, but they're speed dating questions. So if you're at a speed dating event, these are questions that you might ask somebody coming to your table and, looking to hook up or whatever.
Okay.
So it's kind of fun, but yeah. You ready to go?
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Okay, cool. All right, so this is one of my favorite drum-related questions. Let's say you were Dr. Frankenstein, and you can take parts from different drummers, arms, legs, head, heart. What if you could take the arms of a certain drummer, put it together with the heart of another drummer or soul of another drummer, the brains and technicality and skills of another drummer, and the feet of another, like, what guys would you kind of make a Frankenstein figure out of?
Yeah, wow, that's a really good question. So you may know this already. I don't know that we talked about it before, but like I grew up listening to like Christian rock music. So I had some drumming influences that were different than a lot of people's, where people are like, oh, Beard and Bonham and I'm throwing out names that like nobody really knows, but Chris McHugh was one of them. He's still a big heavy hitter in Nashville now, but I learned of him and kind of tried to model stuff after him when he was playing with the Christian band Whiteheart in the 80s. So that goes way back. And then there was another guy kind of in the same circles. His name was David Huff. Him and his brother Dan Huff were big studio players for a while too, or still are, as far as I know. And they were also involved. He was also involved with Whiteheart. Maybe that's the connection at some point. Anyway, what I liked about those two guys particularly were just their no nonsense approach to drumming. It was about the pocket. It wasn't about how much can I fit in this space that I've been given. It was about serving the song, serving the artist. And I always liked that mentality. So I would take those two, and then I would morph them with one of my favorite drummers that I really only learned about in the last several years, who is Josh Dunn from 21 Pilots. I love the creativity he brings to their music and what it adds to the composition. If you took it out, it's not the same thing. Like there's so much creative stuff happening in the way he approaches the pocket, the way he approaches, whatever the groove is for that song. So I'd say those three, if I could like meld them into one, that'd be pretty dope. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
And then if I could be that amalgamation of those three guys, that'd be even better.
Yeah. Yeah, it's better you than somebody else, right?
Right. I'll take it. I'll take those three. Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, that's great that you are so into Christian music. Me, um, because of this Q&A that I've been doing over the past, I don't know, maybe 4 years or so, um, has really pushed me to be a born again Christian. So guys like
Nice.
Earl Bennett,
Yeah.
guys like AR Drummer, they really kind of were very open when I interviewed them about their faith. Also, Sal, Rhythmantic Sal, those three guys were very, very open and very like when I talked to them about Christianity, um, they weren't your normal guys that are trying to evangelize, and they were very
Right.
humble. They were open to all the questions that I had, and over the course of I think a year after interviewing those guys, I was just like, yeah, like I don't know why I'm hesitant with you know talking to Jesus and just like laying it all out there. And so yeah, it's because of these interviews that I really found my faith and was comfortable, because I had no idea. I had no idea that in the YouTube drumming community there are so many very openly faithful drummers. It's amazing.
That is
So
cool. Yeah.
you are another one of them that I see. A lot of your videos are based around faith-based music, and just hearing like all your influences are mostly faith-based. That's awesome, especially in this day and age where it just doesn't get the same attention that it used to. So it's
Right.
really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And once I had this moment when I was about 18 or 19 years old where I was working with this youth pastor, and there ended up being a situation there where like I kind of put all of my whatever he thought or whatever ideas he had about faith and how that reflected into, or not reflected, but how that affected art, music and what film and whatever. I was like, yeah, those are my beliefs too. And then there was a moment where, and I don't say this in a judgmental way because we're all human, and we all we're all prone to this kind of stuff. But he ended up having an affair with somebody in the church that I was attending at the time, and so that caused me to kind of take a step back and kind of reevaluate why I believed what I said I believed, and I think that for anybody, like that's an important piece to the journey, because when we start asking questions, when we start taking inventory of it, that's when it becomes ours. It becomes personal. My faith today is not based on this youth pastor, and again, not in a judgmental way, but like I've had to figure out what that looks like in my own life, and who Jesus is, not just like who religion has said that that he is, but who he is, and how that directly impacts my life day to day, and my faith journey. And I don't nail it all the time.
Yeah, man, that's powerful statement, because I can totally relate. Have I don't have that same kind of thing where I had a pastor or somebody that I looked up to. It is just a personal relationship between. I go to church and all that. I read the Bible all the time, but it's like a personal thing for me, and that's what I think makes it even stronger. Before it was, when I was a kid, my mom would try to make me go to church, and I was like totally against it. Long story short, it was always something else. It wasn't a personal thing for me.
Yeah.
So now it's a personal thing, as like you were saying, it's a lot stronger.
Yeah. It's
So yeah,
when it's just about like, I think a lot of times like church culture has treated Christianity, and we've painted the picture that it's just hey, come be free from your metaphorical chains so we can set you up with a new set of chains, and of guilt and shame. And if you don't measure up, Jesus is going to be, unhappy with you. And kind of learn, like, as we go through our journey, like learning how to shed those kinds of things that have been, a part of it. I think that's why, like, even as a kid, you were like, I really wasn't interested. And it just, because that kind of faith, that kind of, religion isn't appealing. And so, like, it's finding it as, and I think the way that Jesus intended it to be was a relationship with him. It's about grace. It's not about the do's and don'ts. It's just about knowing him. And that's, I think, the crux of it, and understanding how much he loves us. And that's one of the reasons we, like we Loretta and I will talk about why we picked a song, and just sharing part of our parts of our stories and our journeys of faith, and how that's intersected with the ups and the downs of our lives. And just because we've found peace, hope, and strength, through our faith, through the ups and downs, and want to kind of give that to people and encourage them in whatever they're, walking through.
That's awesome. I hope that you keep on doing that, because I'm sure if I was, I don't want to say persuaded, because that's like such a bad way to put it, but I was searching for answers, and those guys that I mentioned before helped me get to this point now. Someone who was in my position now can look at your channel and get the same thing. So more people you can bring towards God, the better, man.
Yeah, I love it. I love too that you've, and I know, I think there was one guy that you mentioned that I didn't know, or I still might not know, but I know Earl, and AR drummer, and I think that's cool that those conversations, kind of we were going around in your mind, like, after the fact, and like, why am I hesitant? What's going on? And I think authentic relationship with Jesus isn't about shoving it at people. It's, and down their throat. It's just about living it out, through the good, the bad, and the ugly, and letting people see that. And I think that's what guys like Earl and AR drummer do, and
Yeah.
And anyway, but that's cool. That's really, really neat. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just love the types of questions because I never know what answers I'm going to get. And they always kind of like, what do you call it, when they take a turn and they kind of go in their own branch and whatever. And then it's kind of weird that I got to go back to these drum related questions, because we're on a really cool topic.
Right.
And I know that a lot of my viewers probably aren't Christian, so hopefully you guys weren't too offended by any of that Christian talk. But yeah, we're gonna get back to the drum related questions. And another one that I like to ask is, do you like wood tip or nylon tip drumsticks?
Yeah, I'm a wood tip guy, because I do have a pair of nylon tip drumsticks that I've used for very specific sounds. If I'm playing lighter and I really want to get that ping, out of like the ride cymbal. The reason I don't normally play with them is because I play pretty hard, and I would, early on in my drumming journey, I didn't really know the difference, but I was constantly breaking nylon tips and then just having the little neck, where they glued the tip on.
Yeah.
So I'm a big wood tip guy, and acorn tip is just kind of what I've kind of gravitated towards in terms of playing. And this wasn't the question, but I go back and forth. I use these, I'm sitting by my kit, so I have them, these ProMark 5A rebounds, and they've got this grip on them, which I love. I have very dry hands. And then the other sticks that I love using are the Scorpion Percussion 5A. And you can see their tips are a little bit bigger, So you get a lot more power, like in volume out of the stick. And they've got this grip on them too, and they're really, really cool. So those are the ones that I keep using. But yeah, always go back to that wood acorn tip.
Cool. Yeah, I love those ProMark sticks with the grip on them.
Yeah. I've got
Cool.
a bunch.
Okay.
I've got a bunch.
You need a bunch, right?
That's right. You go through them.
Why drums?
Yeah. Why not drums? That's I love that question. As I remember being younger, like probably like 7 or 8, and thinking I wanted to play guitar. Looking back, I wish I had still done that, because that would be a cool skill set to have. But it just didn't do anything for me. I don't know if it was because I have small hands and I couldn't make the chords or what it was. And then in the 5th and 6th grade, there was this kid a grade or 2 ahead of me. I mean, always had like, the way I remembered is he always had like a Def Leppard shirt or a Queen shirt on, and he had longer hair, always had drumsticks with him, and he's twirling them around and playing on his desk. I'm like, that is the coolest human being on the planet. And whatever this drum thing is, it sounds like it would be fun. And so the following year, my parents got me into drum lessons at school, and I had a little snare drum. And my mom will still say today, a myriad of years later, that she never had to tell me to practice. Eventually, I had a kit in the basement. They got so used to hearing drums that they just tuned it out, and they would forget that I was even home, even though I'm down in the basement banging away. And but yeah, like I just loved doing it so much. It was never don't forget you have your lesson this week and you need to practice. It was just like, you need to stop practicing for a little bit and come up and do your homework. It's that kind of thing.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
man, and I just love them. I love the way they feel. I love the way they sound. I love the way that I could sit down with a song, and even if it's a song that already exists, and create something, even within the context of the song, like create something that's a little more or unique to me, or I don't know. It's just, I just love the way they. Yeah, what don't I love about drums? They're expensive. That would be the only thing, I guess, that I don't love about them.
And they're usually pretty, I guess not heavy, but cumbersome. When you gotta lug them around gigs and whatnot.
Yeah, especially the hardware. Holy moly! At one point, I had like one bag for my hardware, and it had to have weighed 200 pounds. I'm like, "Can you help me carry this?" And and also when Loretta and I met, I was working on a local production of Green Day's American Idiot, and so she thought I was the coolest thing in the show as the drummer, and I was like, "Cool, chicks dig it." and at least the most important chick in my life dug it, and that was that was the most important. And we were leaving church yesterday, and she said she was running cameras in the back, and she said, "Man, you were having such a good time up there." I was like, we've been married it'll be 6 years next month. And she said, I watch you do your thing. And I'm like, that's my husband up there. That's awesome. And I was like, oh, baby, that made my month. Like, that's awesome. That's so cool that it's not like old hat to you. You're like, it is still cool that my man plays the drums,
Yeah, I think my wife is similar. She doesn't she's got a good poker face. She won't ever let it show or whatever. But once in a while, because I watch YouTube all the time, not just for drums, but just for TV, because nothing good is on TV anymore.
Right.
So we'll be watching YouTube, and you got all these videos that YouTube recommends, and it'll recommend one of my videos for whatever reason. And she'll see the thumbnail and she'll go, that's my husband.
Yeah.
She'll get a little proud for a second, and it's like, see, yeah, you and your poker face. I know deep down inside you really like it.
I love it. That's so fun. And it's neat to have a wife that digs what you're doing. That's why I have this space. This was going to be a storage room when we moved into this house. And we had different plans for the drums. And she said, I don't think that's going to work in the space. What if we take what we were going to use for storage, paint it, and you could turn that into your drum studio? What? Holy moly,
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
And
And
then
she
it turned
loves it.
into your thing, like attic drums, right? That's like,
Yeah, we've been doing our YouTube channel for it was 3 years in March. And about a year and a half ago, I just had this idea to like build my own snare drum just for fun, just to do it. And I was talking with somebody who was saying that there, other companies, like not everybody's making their shells in-house. They're getting them from Keller Shells or Nordic Shells, two great companies that we work with. And I was like, oh, well, maybe that's something that I would like to do, So I built my first drum. Literally, Kelly, I knew nothing about the mechanics of building it, right? So I had to figure out from scratch, like, okay, the measurements and the spacings, and it was a cosmetic nightmare. The first drum was. I still play it. It sounds great. It's a birch shell, and I love it. It just doesn't look great, and you can see on the inside where like I like drilled it like it was a 2x4, and I just smacked the drill into it, and it splintered the wood on the inside, and I had to sand it down, and you can't sand that down enough. So it was just, I dripped stain on the inside, so I had to stain the inside, and it was a comedy of errors, but actually resulted in a good sounding product. And at the end of the day, it can look nice, but if it doesn't sound right and perform well, it's just a piece of crap that looks nice, and nobody's going to want it. And then from there, our friend Marcus Drums was like, "Hey, can you build me one?" Gave specs, and so they've just over a year it evolved, and then we decided to let's do something with this if we can, and formed our LLC, Attic Custom Drums, and we were building snare drums, and I've been itching to get into to do the drum kit thing for lots of different reasons, and so we made that available first to some of the guys that we've signed. We signed a couple of new guys this year, and then we have 3 other guys, wonderful, all 5 wonderful guys, talented drummers, and so our 2 new artists built. I've actually got one, you can't really see it very well, but that green and brass back there is set up from the sound test I did the other day. That's got to get packed up and shipped this week. So we've built our first 2 kits. The first one is now in Austin, getting set up, and then this one will be in Boulder, Colorado, or I think Boulder or somewhere in Colorado, and it'll be there. And they're going on a tour, and they'll take that with them, and so it's there. And that was also a new set of trial and errors, building a snare drum, you get used to the mechanics of that, and then you're dealing with thinner ply shells, or put like, okay, well, now I know how to space out the lugs, but what about the mounts for the legs on the floor tom? How do we space those out? And learning, and I was fortunate to have I've got a friend who's my go-to woodworking guy. If I have an issue or a question, what's the best way? He'll be like, I'll come over and we'll figure it out. And then my friends over at Precision Drum Company, where we get a lot of our materials from, are just fantastic. And they're like, yeah, well, the best way to do this, like I was having an issue with the claws, or not the claws, the spurs for the bass drums. And I was like, is there a formula for where these go? And they're like, No, man, you just sit your kick drum on your workbench and you hold them where they need to go, and you mark it, and then just measure it accordingly. And so it's the same on both sides. I was like, that is not scientific at all, but
Yeah.
but practical. And so yeah, so it's exciting. So we've got our first two kits there. The website's updated with them and still doing snares. We just recently did. I'm finishing up a bronze 6.5 by 14. That's actually going to have like an engraving on part of the drum, and it's gonna be killer. That's going to the same place that the Austin kit went to. So, but I had to find an engraver that could actually engrave such a big item, So, anyway, yeah. So I love doing it. It's just it's fun to be down in the shop and take somebody's idea, have conversations with them, kind of work out the details of that. What is this going to look like when we're all done? And then create a product that they can put on their kit, and play it, and it sounds great, it looks great. And then now the kit thing. And now I'm like, man, I need to build one for myself so I can be playing our drums.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is like, it wasn't even an afterthought. I didn't even think to ask about the company, because I'm just kind of showing how prepared of an interviewer I am. But yeah, it's just so, it's like, it's an amazing story just hearing it, how it just started from a snare drum that you made for yourself, and now it's like you're basically a full-blown drum company. It just blows my mind. I don't even want to ask any of the questions that I have. I want to ask more about this company. It's like, well, I mean, I guess if I were somebody like looking, to get an attic drum, like, what would be the best? Well, like, first of all, how would I like contact you? What would be the best way to, go about the whole thing? And is there things that you can't do? Things that like what like, just dive in, man.
Yeah. So there's some certain things that like you need certain tools to accomplish. The way that, trying to think, I don't have an example here, but like the way they get this finish on this Mapex Saturn Evolution, it's a high-end, spray guns that spray real finely and evenly, and then they same kind of thing where they spray the lacquer on it and you get this gloss thing. So we don't have the tools to do that. So everything is by hand at this stage. So if we're doing a glossy finish, it's like 10 to 20 coats of a clear gloss wipe on polyurethane, and then 100 rounds of sanding the final layer to get it slick, and smooth, and it's very laborious. And then of course there's other ways doesn't have to be glossy. It can be a satin finish, it can be a flat finish. And then the wraps, this kit back here is a green glass glitter wrap, so we actually have the material is wrapped around and bonded to the wood itself, and which they look fantastic. And I've not found that they alter the sound of the drum, very much. They don't add enough weight to really create a big issue. But the goal is to one day, have those tools as we grow to be able to offer more and more finishes. So like if you want a paint, it's by hand. If you want to stain, I'm staining everything by hand. One thing that we do, which I think is super, super epic, is we have an artist in town, a good friend of ours, Billy Smith, and we've had two guys that have said, I want this on my drum, and I am not artistic in that realm. So one of he's our artist now, he wasn't at the time, Michael Jade Drum Channel, he is a big fan of the movie Christine, the Stephen King movie. So he wanted on the one side of the drum to have the front end of that Plymouth Fury. Well, I can't do that. So I did the base coats, sent them to our artist, and now we have a drum that looks like the front end of a car. We use chrome hardware, and that's pretty cool. I don't know. I don't know that that any other company is doing that kind of customization on a drum. It's not cheap, but it looks super dope. Like if you could put anything on it. Hey man, I want pictures of my kids in each open section around the drum. Okay, cool. We can do that, right? So yeah, and then we've got all kinds of, we're able to, maple, birch, babinga, mahogany, different, hybrids, maple poplar, maple gum. I think there's a maple mahogany that we have available to us as well. And then we're not, shaping our own shells at this point. They're coming from Keller shells or Nordic shells. And then we're just ordering the thickness, the sizes, and then we're cutting the bearing edges, drilling everything out and customizing them according to, to your specifications.
Nice. So how long does it take to, let's say I wanted just your standard 5-piece kit?
Yeah. Now that we've gotten the first 2 builds out of the way, and I have some idea of how long it takes to do it. Like I always say, like, 8 to 16 weeks. Though that just gives me a window for if there's a delay on a part, or if something happens here that I have to attend to before, in between working on the kit. But usually I can get them cut and marked and drilled out in less than 48 hours, a full kit. Then depending on what kind of finish, you want on it, I'm limited on space. So it's usually like if we're wrapping a kit, it's 1 drum at a time, and then it has to cure overnight before I drill that out, and then can assemble it. So just, yes, some of it depends, but probably if I could go start to finish, I could knock a 5-piece kit out in a week.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man. I think I'm gonna start saving, because I think it's amazing what you're doing.
thanks,
I would
man.
definitely want to support and help you guys out, and I just think all around the whole story, at least the part that I know, is just an amazing story. It's everything that kind of like the American dream. Like you have a dream, you have a goal, you go and you do everything you can to achieve that goal, and not everybody gets to their goals, but it seems like you're on the right track, and all the signposts that you need to tell you you're on the right track, it seems like you're getting. Just that example of you making your own snare, and then somebody else coming and asking about it and wanting a snare. That's a great signpost. It just tells you, it's a flag that says you're doing the right thing. You should just keep on going and keep on going. So yeah, man, I mean, that's just an amazing story. And I was like, like you said you had a website. What's your website?
Yeah, it's awithkmkandrum.com. And let's do this too for your channel. If anybody wants to order a snare or a kit, and they're watching this video, if they mention this video, we'll do a 10% discount for them.
Cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
that's pretty cool. And what you talk about, the dream, and we're still in the early stages of this, so we're not like turning profit yet, which I look forward to that day, because that would be helpful. But
yeah,
part of what birthed like the Drum Attic and then Attic Custom Drums, and that I'm going to bring something up, and I don't mean to bring it down like emotionally, but if anybody's been watching our channel enough, you know that I lost my son in 2016, and one of the things that we had talked about that whole last year before he passed away was pursuing the things we're passionate about, and kind of talking about how the things that we're passionate about, the dreams that we have, are I believe are put there by God. They're not there by accident. He's built that into our DNA. And so my personality kind of belies my lower self-esteem and and how easily discouraged I get, with stuff. But all of what we've started to do is like, oh, this is kind of honoring those conversations too about, I do it for me too, but there's also like a part of what we do that's like to honor, you know, doing what we're passionate about, and that honors my son in that conversation, and just pursuing those things that I feel like are in here. And there's been times, Kelly, where like I've made an error on a drum that cost us hundreds of dollars out of pocket to fix it, and which we didn't have to spend on that. And I was sitting up here in front of my drum kit crying, literally, and Loretta has had to come in and go. I was like, we're done. Let's just forget it. I can barely play the drums. Why do I think I can build a drum set? And that's kind of where I can get in my head. I'm a pretty outgoing dude, but Loretta gets all the levels, and that's one of the levels. And she said, so you want to quit because you made a mistake? I'm like, well, when you say it like that, it kind of sounds a little petty, but yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. And she goes, we knew this was part of starting something new, even going from snare drums to kits. There's new stuff to learn. We knew there were going to be things we were going to have to absorb and correct. So, but don't quit now. And I was thinking of that conversation when we were talking for our channel, and you said, if you quit, you'll never know how close you were to succeeding. And that kind of played into everything that had been happening in my head. And I'm like, man, Kelly nailed that. Like, if I quit, I'd rather keep going and be a complete failure and at least know that I gave it, my best effort than to quit and then wonder, well, could it have been successful? Could it have been the next SJC, or DW or whatever, right? And I say that with a lot of humility because I respect the crap out of those two companies. They do some amazing stuff, and they make great drums. And so I'm not trying to. That sounds so arrogant to be like, we could be the next. But I want to be in the same conversation with when somebody's like, so what do you think? Should I get the DW or the Attic Custom Drums? Or should I get the SJC, the DW, or the Attic Custom Drums? I want to be part of that conversation. Not me. I want our drums to be part of that conversation. And right now, one of the things we have going for us is I'm the only one building these drums in our shop. So if 10 people order the drum, each drum, whether it's a snare or each item in a kit, is getting the exact same attention from me that anybody's drum is going to get, which is pretty cool.
Totally cool. Yeah, I mean, you can only get to an SJC or a DW level by aspiring to get to that level. Like, so, I know you're from what I can tell, us talking, a couple of hours, you're a very humble person, like you're very grounded, but I don't think anyone that would even, because when you said, you want Attic Drums to be the next SJC or the next DW, never did it ever occur to me that you were, bringing your level up to that automatically. Like, I already knew you were aspiring to get to that level. So, and that's part of the attraction is, you're trying to build this brand, and you're right now you're, you and your wife, you guys are the face of the brand, and it's so attracting to see this story unfold. And I don't know anybody. Yeah, I don't know anyone who wouldn't cheer for you and want to support. So
Man,
It's
thank you
just
so much. That's really
yeah, it's
kind.
awesome. So okay, so one thing I did want, and I know that we were talking before I hit the record button, and I asked you, you don't mind going a little bit deeper in conversations and whatever, and the whole questions that I was going to ask, that's like already out the window. So we might as well just dive deep.
Let's do
Me
it.
as an outsider, sort of, I haven't really watched too much because we've talked. We both have like almost no time to do anything. So I know on your channel you have a lot other than just drum covers. I haven't really dived into it too much, so I don't know any of the context of the backstory of the channel and of you guys. All I really see and all I really have time for is to watch people's covers.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much like I if I have like if I have an extra half hour, I might like watch somebody's interview or something. Like Earl does a lot of Ask Earl Anything, and he does a lot of like lesson type. So I try to like watch some of his non-drum cover videos. But as far as your channel, and it's not knocking you or anything like that. It's just me not having any time to do anything. I
I
haven't watched
understand
any
that.
of that contextual stuff. So when you said your son passed away, I was just like, whoa, this is like, it's not your average topic, right? And
Right,
then
right.
I started to like remember some of the covers that I've seen of you, and I don't want to like overstep anything, but I've seen you wearing "To Write Love on Her Arm" shirts. Is there like a connection with that, or is that something totally like just not connecting at all?
Sure. Yeah, there's a connection there. We have on our at our spring store, we have like a couple different designated designs for To Write Love on Our Arms. We kind of looked around and tried to find an organization that was kind of had as broad of a reach as possible in terms of like mental health and helping people that dealt with, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, addiction, whatever the case may be. And they have a pretty broad umbrella of, kind of the group of people that they're able to reach. And so we wanted to do something to help support that. We don't talk about mental health all the time on our channel, but we try to be open kind of about where we are with stuff. And what's the connection to Write Love on Her Arms is with my son. The initial thought was that it was a suicide. And then as kind of more stuff came up about it and around about it, and after kind of even talking with my counselor, my therapist at the time, who had also been my son's counselor, we believed that there was something that he had gotten involved with called the choking game. This is getting really heavy. And basically, young people will use it for different kind of reasons. It gives them kind of a high, so it's cheaper than pot or anything like that. It also creates like this sense of euphoria. So I knowing my son had told me, that the way his depression affected him was he could be fine, and then it would just in a moment it would just drop off, like, and he would have this really overwhelming heaviness and sadness. And so what we came to kind of, or I did, and my therapist even concurred with this. He's like, I've been thinking about this all week, but was that that he had one of these moments and had found this as a coping mechanism. And kind of the deception of it is that you're like, I'm in control of this. But it only takes a millisecond for it to change and for you to not be conscious. So we think that that's what happened. So we still kind of talk. So we talk about like depression and different mental health issues, and as well as suicide prevention, because whether or not my son or anybody else like meant in that moment to take their life, they still took it, even inadvertently. And I've been in a place before where I understand that, where I was like, the only way to deal with this is to just end this nonsense. and I was fortunate enough that God put people in my life that reached out to me in that moment. And I'm still here. And then even I met Loretta, and I got together it was right after the 1-year anniversary of my son's passing. And year 2 was really, really hard for me. And so the timing on Loretta coming into my life was perfect, because I've felt like, and I always preface this with, not to sound melodramatic, but I don't think I would have made it through year 2 if God hadn't put her there to be a physical presence, a shoulder to cry on. The whole first year I didn't have that. I cried myself to sleep alone, and I stayed busy doing shows, for local theater places. I was directing some shows, and so all that, and Loretta has dealt with her mental health stuff, and I deal with PTSD and anxiety as a result of my son, and that, and I was the one that found him, so that's kind of where the PTSD elements come from. And so so we talk about it, because I think it's easy to I don't know if this is just how we're programmed as humans, but it's easy to be like, I'm not going to talk about that because nobody will understand, or to feel like I'm the only one that deals with this, or it's stupid that I'm dealing with this. I should be stronger than this. And so the reason we talk about it and be like, yeah, we've been there. Yeah, I struggle with this, is so that hopefully somebody goes, oh, thank God, I'm not the only one that's dealing with this. And maybe it's okay to talk to somebody about it, instead of struggling alone in the dark. And just letting people know, yeah, you're not alone, and you're loved, and you have value, so yeah, that was probably like a long and really heavy and sad answer to the question, but
No, totally. I mean, I was like, when I remember thinking when I first saw, I can't even remember what the song was, but when I first saw you wearing that shirt, because um, it was a long time ago when I had a To Write Love on Her Arm shirt. It doesn't fit now because I'm older and I'm fatter, but I used to have
I
one
understand.
because my uncle, he killed himself as well, and so I kind of have that same connection to that company. When I moved back from Houston back to Los Angeles in 2006, I reconnected with my cousin, who was my uncle's daughter, and we went to a lot of shows together. And one show we went to was the Warp Tour, and they had a To Write Love on Her Arms booth there, and I kind of got the whole spiel and whatnot. And yeah, it was just something that I was totally into because my uncle had killed himself.
Yeah.
I had a friend who had also killed himself, and it's like it's never easy to go through anything like I can't even imagine what you went through. But yeah, it's like I just remember like seeing that shirt, and I was like, some point in time, somewhere down the line, I got to ask him about that shirt, and what the connection is. And yeah, it's first of all, it's great that you have some shirts that you can get from them, and somehow try to at least bring awareness to mental health and mental health issues and all that stuff. Because yeah, it's just crazy. It seems like there's certain people that wear it, but then there's other people that just keep it all in. Like, I'm not sure how your son was, but my uncle was, I mean, you would just never know it. Maybe between him and my aunt, there were things that because nobody sees everything that goes on between, like, in the house.
Right.
But when I was over at the house, and whenever he was out and about, everyone had just nothing but great things to say. And when it happened, everyone was completely shocked. And it's like, yes, these people that are going through stuff like that need to know that there are other options. Even when you think there's no other option, there's always an option. So it's awesome that you're supporting that kind of stuff.
And, it's it's easy, like my like I was talking about, my personality kind of is a little deceptive in the terms of that, like it doesn't reveal kind of like some of my insecurities. I come across, and it's a natural thing, like it's not an act, but I come across very confident and very up, all the time. And so and that's how my son was. And because we had as open of a dialogue as your teenage son will allow you to have with him, we had a pretty open dialogue about what was going on with him. And sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, but he had the same kind of personality that I do. He would joke. He's like, we're the same person, right? Like, and I would say, yeah, but you're talented. And he would go, that's true. And but especially with somebody who has an outgoing personality, it's very easy to miss anything they may be struggling with, because they're like, well, Eric's always so happy. I had no idea he would have been dealing with this kind of depression or whatever it is, and I think that those are the toughest people to spot it in, unless you're around them more than like every Sunday morning or, once in a while. Like if you're around them on a regular basis, then you kind of get to see more of the minutia of that personality and kind of what they might be dealing with. But it always, it's a cliche, but it's so true that like everybody you meet is fighting a battle you're not aware of. And it's easy to forget that, even for me, and get mad at somebody because they like cut me off in traffic, or they were a total butt to me while I was checking out a Walmart or whatever. And to try to keep that in mind, that like I'm probably not the reason they're having a crappy day and are acting like that. Like there's probably something else that's going on. But yeah, I think if the more we kind of remember that kind of idea that everybody's dealing with their own stuff, and we just are kind and loving to people, even when it's difficult, like even when they're not necessarily kind or loving, but just to be like, hey, thanks for your help, have a great day, and a smile. The little things go so far. I talked to so many people after my son Thomas passed, and just how many people were like, man, he just smiled at me in class and it made my day. Or he'd give me a hug, and or he'd tell a joke that made me look forward to coming back to class the next day just to see him. And it's like, man, there's never underestimate the power even of the little gestures that you might not even realize are going to be a huge deal, to somebody else, because we don't know right where they're at that given moment. So I'll always be kind. I probably don't get that 100% of the time. Like I don't nail that idea, because sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the offense of something in a moment and forget that the human on the other end of that interaction, is very much just like me, Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's so easy. It takes no effort to be evil, to be rude, to be anything bad. It takes a lot of effort to do good things, the right way, the good way. That's the one thing that I've really come to realize, especially now trying to follow Jesus and just live the right way. It's hard. It's not easy to forgive, and especially you keep coming back to the driving and someone cutting you off. Yeah, I get the same way. It's just like, oh, and then you gotta kind of take a breath, and it's hard to. It's easy to just like wanna, lash out, and then you've got to bring it all back, and that's the hard part. So to me, it's everywhere. It's easy to be lazy. All of those sins, those cardinal sins that they talk about, those are all so easy to do. It's hard to do the opposite.
Yeah, I think kind of my like one of my governing life Bible verses is Micah 6:8, and it says, "What is good, and what does God require of you? To do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God." And so my theory is that if I'm walking humbly with God, or doing my, doing everything that I can do to just get to know him better. That's really what that is. It's just, I just want to know him better. I want to know him more. The other things I think start to fall into place, and as the closer we get, like, hopefully the more those negative knee-jerk reactions start to fall to the wayside. So there's less and less of that. But sometimes, like you were saying, it's a conscious effort in a moment to be like, yo, okay, I'm gonna look at this different. I choose to respond differently. Sometimes for me, it's it all comes out, and Loretta is the is the voice of reason. She's like, was that worthy of an F-bomb? Probably not, right? Like that might have been too much. And I was like, I know, but it really made me angry. She's like, but why? Like, what is it in you? Like, and that's what I've been asking myself. What is it in me that like will take me from a 0 to a 60 of being upset? Like something so small as that guy in traffic, that person that cut me off, or the person that said you suck on my YouTube video, right? Like, why do I let that skyrocket me so much? And I think life and faith, like those, I think those journeys run together, obviously, but like it is a constant. If we're not asking ourselves, why am I responding this way, or why do I feel this way when this happens, we're not even recognizing our need for change. And if we don't recognize our need for change, we won't change. And I used to tell my kids when they were little, because I think one of them kept dating the same guy who was a problem over and over again. and then the next time I was like, listen, this dude's bad news. Dad, don't you think people could change? I totally do. I absolutely believe people can change. I think they seldom do, because in order to change, you have to shine the light at yourself and take a good look and admit this is a bad thing in me that I need to, it affects people around me. It's harmful and I need to change that. That's all. It's hard to look at ourselves and be that objective about our attitudes and our actions and stuff. But I might have gotten off on a rabbit trail.
No, that's cool. I mean, I love that we have 2 drum channels, and I try to stick on drums, and I think we did a good job talking about your drum company. But then, yeah, it just, because I said this to you off air, but I wanted to get to know you, the guy behind the drum set. So I'm just like soaking it all in. I think this is all just great. I hope,
well, good.
I hope the
I'm glad
audience
it's
likes
positive.
it too. But yeah, it's all just, I love the roller coaster, to be able to like do all the ups and downs. That's just what, like when you're out and about, when you're having dinner with friends or whatever, you don't want to just talk about yourself, or you don't want to hear somebody just talking about them. So you want to like back and forth. You want it a lot of ups and downs. You want it to be interesting.
Yeah.
And I think, even though probably most of the people that are watching this are drummers, we're all people too. We all are experiencing our day to day and whatnot. And it's nice to sometimes hear other people's perspectives on just life in general, not just the drums, which, we all love. And I'm sure it's like an echo chamber sometimes talking about drums. So to be able to get different perspective on life, I think it just makes it even more interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have any more drum questions?
I mean, I have a ton, so I don't know if you want to go back to that, but let's see. Let me try to find one actually. Oh, if you could play on any one famous drummer's kit, whose would it be?
Oh. Okay. let's see. I'm trying to visualize different kits. Who was it that had? Probably every drummer in the 80s, now that I'm thinking about it, but like had, and now that I'm thinking about this, it was probably a Christian band. It was Holy Soldier, and their drummer had a kit of Tamas, but they were double bass. They had like 8 toms like coming around, and they were all alternating black and white. So
cool.
One white kick, one black kick, and then every other one, and it was just this epic thing. So maybe that one. Also, I remember seeing lots of pictures in Modern Drummer of Terry Bozzio's kit, and which I still to this day is like, I feel like, oh man, that's insane. But it would be fun to sit behind and just tinker on, and just try to play and figure out, because I think he always had some of the most crazy, like giant setups between the amount of drums and types of drums and cymbals that he had. It was crazy. And I used to think, like, when I was younger and watching, different bands in the 80s, it was like, yeah, the more drums, like the better, the bigger the drums, the better. And I remember seeing a guy named Zorro in clinic in Kentucky, and he just plays a 4-piece. And he said, when people ask me why I only play a 4-piece, I ask them, will more drums help me stay in the pocket better? And I was like, yeah, man, that's like, you can be flashy, but if you can't sit in the pocket, and I'm not always in it, I like to push and pull, but if you can get in the pocket, man, that's what makes the song have the feel that it's going to have. So this kit is well, actually, it's a 2 top, 2 bottom, but toms there. But my Tama kit before this had 3 rack toms, and that was just because that's the way that myself an Edit Custom Drums kit. It'll be 1 rack tom, and then either 1 floor tom or 2 floor toms. I haven't decided, but it'll be a pretty basic setup. It won't be 18 toms and some timbales, and then it'll be it'll be pretty basic, because I kind of always have thought of myself as, and it might sound self-deprecating, but I don't mean it to be, as just a meat and potatoes drummer. I'm not super flashy. I don't have all the really fast chops that some guys have, which I'm envious of, which I could probably have if I would spend the time to try to develop them. But I have fun just sitting behind a kit and locking into the groove and just coloring it with little things here and there and trying to serve that song. And but I think that's being able to find that, get in that pocket and be comfortable in there, I think it's probably one of the most important things that we can do as a drummer. Anyways, so yeah, probably Terry Bozzio's kit to answer your question. That's the short answer with my rabbit trail.
That's great, because you did touch upon the pocket, and so there's a question that I have. I'm going to ask that question in a bit, but talking about the pocket, to me, the pocket represents, okay, if you're a drummer and you're learning how to play and you learn all the chops, you learn all the speed, you learn how to, do all the different things with the hands and the feet and every term that you can possibly learn on the drums, like, that's great. Not knocking it at all. But you're kind of just playing by yourself, right? So you're learning all of these things, you're learning all of these different patterns and riffs and whatnot, but you're doing it by yourself. When you bring pocket into it, in order to have a pocket, you got to be playing with somebody else, even if it's just one other person, if it's a bass player. So what that means is you're bringing in a connection, right? You and somebody else are playing together, and you're trying to lock in. That's the pocket. And it's almost like a dance. When you're dancing with somebody, you become one. You're not two individuals. Sometimes I've been in bands where there's no connection at all. People are playing whatever the hell they want to play,
Right.
and you're just kind of like, "Whoa, what the hell's going on?"
Yes.
Sorry for all the cussing, but
I am so horribly offended. I'm just kidding. Not
but I've
even a
been
little
in
bit.
bands where, and I was talking to one of my old bass players this morning. I've been in bands where, you don't just play together all the time. You are spending so much time together. I was roommates with my guitar player, and we were going out together and eating meals together and going to the
Yeah.
bars together, playing shows together, rehearsing. Like, it was like a 24/7 thing. So when we did play, whether it was on stage or whether we went into the studio, talk about pocket. And
Yeah.
1, 2, 4 individuals, just like, you could almost read each other's mind on what you're gonna do. Like, when you watch a good jazz band, these guys are just like, it looks like they're all playing weird stuff, but they're
Right.
all in that pocket. So when you talk about pocket, pocket can only exist when you're playing with other people. And to me, that's the best feeling when playing drums, is playing with other people, connecting with other people, dancing with other people, even though I can't dance for crap.
Same.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's like, so you bring a pocket, and it's just like, that is to me, the essence of drumming. I'm I'm with you 100%. I'm not flashy at all either. I don't do the stick twirls. I don't like do all the crazy fills and whatnot. I just loved playing the pocket. So, as YouTube drummers, we're playing alone, but we're playing to the song. So it's kind of like you are still playing in a band with other individuals. You're trying to lock into that song and lock into that
Right.
pocket, while also doing a little bit of your own like taste. There's guys that do note for note, which is fine. But I
Yeah.
think you and I are the same. We like to, pay homage to the song, but also put in our little seasoning here and there.
Yeah. Yeah. And then see yours, you're trying to be John Bonham, or Chris McHugh, like you're letting your creativity flavor that. And like you said, yeah, there was, when you remove the drums from that track, there's only one pocket, and it's what those people that were playing together created. So you are kind of confined to that pocket, is only going to feel a very specific way because it's pre-recorded already. But that's how they got that. And we talk about this at church too. Like, the more we play together, and the more time we spend outside of music, even together, when we come together and play, the tighter that that sound gets. And I think you're 100% right. Like, you can't find pocket just soloing, on your own, and ever playing with other people. I think that's super well said, Kelly. We need to put that on a t-shirt or something.
Oh yeah.
It'd be a really long t-shirt to read.
Yeah.
But
What does that say?
Stop, I need to read your shirt. Pocket it, yeah.
Okay, so now I want to ask my question. You were talking about pocket, when you were, talking about what set you wanted to go into, and you said you like to stay in the pocket, but sometimes you like to push and pull. Was that tongue in cheek, or was that something that I think it's both, right? You accidentally push and pull, but you also purposely push and pull.
Yeah, it sometimes it's accidental if I'm not on a click, and the guitar player gets really excited and starts to push with there's like a place where you kind of, there's a natural ebb and flow, and that makes it feel human. And so depending on where it's going, I'll like follow a little bit. Other times, if the groove is really slow, I just have a tendency to want to push it a little faster. Not that it should be pushed faster, and then But other times, I actually had a guy one time say to me, he's like, "Do you not like my tempos?" And I was like, "No, they're fine. I'm sorry. I'll get better." But and sometimes when I feel, and especially like in like church music, there's a tendency for those songs to kind of fall into a pattern where there's always like a build, or you chug 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 chug, and those are easy for me to speed up, and even like one of our guitar players, he gets excited on those parts too. And so if I'm conscious that that's happening, I'll focus on my breathing, which is something I learned from a guy named Louis Weaver who played with Petra. And I'll focus on my breathing and try to keep that tempo from moving too far forward, and kind of make everybody come back to me, to where we were. And so I've been incorporating, had gotten away from it, but trying to incorporate even just 10 minutes of just locking in with a click track, and just playing a groove. Because I feel like when I get used to that, even if I'm not playing with a click at church, we started at a tempo, I'm going to be less likely to kind of move back and forth. I'm going to be pretty close to center, on that tempo. So that was probably the best lesson I ever learned as a young drummer. Was I didn't do it forever and ever. And then the guy who said, "Do you not like my tempos?" I said, "What can I do to improve?" He said, "Get a metronome." And I was like, "Okay, done." Sold.
Yeah, that's the great part about being a musician, is if you have a chance to play with other musicians, you'll come across things that you just would never. And I'm not saying like you would never come across or consider using a metronome, but sometimes it takes somebody saying use a metronome for you to be like, "Oh, I should probably use a metronome." And
Yeah,
it's just
that
like
makes sense.
those things that you learn. Like I've learned so much just, and like we talked about my mixes in your interview. I think the one thing, I don't know, I might have mentioned it, but the one thing I think I forgot to mention was I was in the studio a lot when I was a young drummer, and I would just watch what all the engineers and what they were doing when they were mixing, and all the little tricks that they would do. And the reason I think my mixes sound as halfway decent is not because I'm doing anything special. It's just because of the knowledge that I picked up just observing other people doing what
Sure.
they do, applying
Right.
it to what I do now. And that's just that's the best part. Again, when going back to the pocket, and um it, having the pocket be other people, having other people in this whole experience of playing music. That's just the best part, is to exchange data just like we are right now, talking back and forth. The things that are revealed to you that just you would never, probably in 100 lifetimes would never, if you were just by yourself trying to learn stuff, you would never come across that unless somebody
Yeah.
else brought that different perspective to you.
Yeah. And one thing that's cool, I think, about like the drumming community on YouTube is at least my experience has been that everybody's really good about and open to answering questions. Like, "Man, I really like the sound you're getting on your kick drum. What are you doing? Like, what, is there a trick to getting that sound?" And "Oh yeah, man, let me tell you how I'm doing that," and then you learn that way. And of course, when I was growing up, YouTube wasn't a thing, and there really weren't a lot of people if you weren't in a studio being able to observe and ask questions, you weren't like getting online and watching people do it, because that didn't exist. So like, I think young drummers coming into it now really have a leg up on, what guys like, you and me had going on when we were really young. It wasn't quite what it is. Well, for me, the internet wasn't even a thing. Like we didn't even have cell phones. Like, so it was like, because I had to go buy a DVD or not, no, sorry,
Yeah.
a VHS to to watch Dave Weckl do his thing and break it down for me, so we live in that digital age now where I can, I want to learn A, B, or C, and I just pop that into YouTube, and there's some drummer doing it and breaking it down for me. Like that's awesome, so.
Okay, so I want to get your opinion, because I feel like, yes, there's definitely, if you want to learn how to play drums, you just go on YouTube and you can find anything you want to learn how to, how to do. If you want to learn how to do a certain fill, or if you want to learn, oh, what the heck is Travis Barker doing in this song, whatever. There's somebody that's gonna dissect it and analyze it, and you'll learn how to play it, and voila.
Yeah.
But with all of this, all the time spent on YouTube, learning something, you're in one place, but you're like, when we were, playing, when I was playing out. I was all over the place.
Yeah.
I was bouncing back and forth between school, playing out with a ton of different bands. You have exposure that way to all of these other people doing all of these other things and experiencing all these other stuff. You kind of almost, if you're focused so much on YouTube, there's got to be like an imbalance where you're not, getting out there and doing it. Like, I'm sure there's people that do both. They have a balance. They can get onto YouTube, learn what they need to learn, and then go out and apply it to wherever they're playing. But I'm sure there's a lot of guys out there that are just on YouTube and they just want to learn it. And so what I've been noticing is once in a while I'll try to like listen to new music, whether it's on YouTube, I'll try to like watch some new stuff, or I go onto iTunes and run down the top 40 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I would say, I might hear one song or one or two songs that are, like pretty decent, but the rest is all disconnected to me. There's a disconnect going on between the musicians. And I feel like, it's just my theory, that there's an imbalance. There's not enough playing with other people, and there's too much of individual musicians playing only with themselves, and then they try to form a band and they don't know how to play with each other, but they're so like, they want to do everything quick. When you're young, you want to do everything quick. You want to record something really quick, put it on the YouTube, put it onto with those services that put you everywhere, and then it's just like, okay, now let's go and market. And they want to, they want to focus on the marketing side and social media and branding and all this stuff. Back in the day, we were just focused on making the music good, playing with each other, and learning how to, gel and whatnot. So I think, at least for me, it's hard to find musicians that make good music and connect, because there's all this disconnect going on. I don't know what like, how do you feel?
Yeah, no, I think that one problem that I think a generation is dealing with is the idea of instant gratification. Like, I want to be a rock star, or I want to play like Travis Barker tomorrow. And and there's and not everybody. So I'm obviously making a big broad stroke here, but like this idea that that Travis just woke up one day and was a god among mere mortals, right? Like, he put in the work, the blood, sweat, and tears behind a drum kit, learning his craft, playing with people, and to get to where he was, right? And it's like an American Idol mentality. Oh, if I just go audition, mom says I'm good, right, and I'll get in. But nobody's willing to really grind it out. And I think that's something that kind of has gotten a little bit more lost. Some people still get that, because at the end of the day, it's really the only formula that works for getting better, right? Is to put in the effort, and you get out of it what you put into it. And you were talking about playing with other musicians. I think, like, just to piggyback on that, there are things that you will not learn just sitting behind your kit with a YouTube video and your drumsticks. You'll only learn them in the context of playing with other musicians, because that's a whole different animal than me sitting down and understanding 1 and 2 and 3 and, but how does that relate to what my guitar player is playing, or what my bass player is playing? And I always said I played in middle school and high school band and stuff, but my first drum kit performance out was at church, and it was awful. And I was so nervous, Kelly, that I couldn't, my hi-hats, were doing this because my leg was shaking. And the pastor afterwards thanked me for my availability, which was very kind, a very kind way of saying that was god awful. But he let me play again, and because he understood something, and it was that as we're learning something, if we don't have a safe place to fail, we're not going to learn how to succeed at it. We're not going to learn what sounds good if we don't first understand what doesn't work at all, And so I was so thankful for that. And I look back on that moment fondly. And of course, as a 15-year-old or whatever, when he said, thanks for your availability, I was like, yeah. Now I'm like, oh, that meant it wasn't good, but thanks for at least being willing to play, right? But yeah, man, you've got to play with folks, or it's just, it's just a whole different animal. It's not a different skill set, but it's almost kind of like an adjacent skill set. I have the knowledge of playing the drums underlying everything, and I can play on my own, but then add 3 or 4 or 5 other people to the mix. Now it's not just about what is cool, what sounds cool. It's what sounds cool, but also fits, what works with what these guys and gals are playing. So I think that's such a big piece to the puzzle. And I think, yeah, you're 100% right on that. So my opinion is, yes, I agree with you.
Yeah, it takes me back to a question that you asked on your channel. What if I had any tips for drummers? And I think now, talking about this, I would say to get out and play with other musicians. I think that's probably the most critical thing, because when I started playing behind the drum kit when I was maybe 12, I think. And I was in jazz class at 13. I was in my first band at 14, and playing in bands with other people ever since. So it was not even a year that I was playing by myself, learning how to at least get to a level to play the basic walk the dog jazz. And that's all I did in jazz class. Was if there was a walk the dog song, I would play that, and that was it. But being able to play in a setting with other people, especially in jazz class, when you have the conductor, and he's our conductor, Mr. Gibble, his podium was indented because he had a drumstick and he was just banging the tempos away. And if we were off by just a little bit, he would stop the whole song and he would say, Kelly, you're out. AJ, you're in. Mike, you're in. And he would hold us accountable. And so we had to learn that, if your tempo is not right, you got to go home and you got to work on it. My daughter's playing piano right now. She's learning how to play piano. And what I'm picking up with the teacher is she'll go through the lesson plan. And if my daughter's not getting it, she'll go, okay, work on it at home. Let's go to the next plan. So what I'm starting to realize, and I never realized this before, you learn what you need to learn at lessons or whatever, but then you go home and you take it home and you dissect it all and you learn it all at home behind closed doors. Nobody else is watching. The whole iceberg effect, right? People only see what's the tip of the iceberg. They don't see all the work that goes into it. So yeah, man, I think playing with people is probably the most important thing because you're going to learn so many things that you like would never even imagine. And then
Yeah.
it's going to help you be a better drummer. It could also, I don't know what you think, but a lot of times you'll learn stuff, right? And you'll never end up ever using it in a band situation. And it's almost like waste of time. Obviously it's not waste of time because you could use it at some point. But if you're playing more with people, you're learning what not to do just as much as what to do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There was a guy that I knew who used to be one of the drummers at our church in Lexington. Super great dude. But he got bored. He would get bored, because so church music is like, rock or pop. It's usually a straight four kind of feel, and maybe we're in three, but it's not real complex drumming. And so he would get bored. So he would approach a fill with, how many notes can I fit in? Like, how fast can I play to fit, 20 beats into this measure, right? And I always like, and that's one way to do it. I always was like, what fits the song? Like what serves what's happening? Is this my place to try to show off? Well, not really, because there's a band involved, and it's not a solo, it's a fill. So how do I enhance this measure that's going to lead us into this next section in a tasteful way, but something that I also think, yeah, that sounded pretty cool, like, so, but, and also some of that is because I've maybe probably never been able to take 4 beats and then play fast enough, to do like 64th notes or whatever into that, like, and then subdivide it and all this stuff. And hey, yeah, what I did is I broke that 4 into like a 15 3/4 time. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, I'm not that smart, dude. It sounded all right. Busy, but all right, anyway, but yeah, so that's again my meat and potatoes mentality. But and he
Yeah,
was a
man,
very good drummer. This guy could have drummed circles around me, as I'll say that. Like, his approach to band playing, like, I learned something by watching him try to fill the silence with as much as possible, as much as I did anything else too. Like, oh, that's busy. That didn't really actually fit what was happening. So that kind of helped form my what fits the song idea. But
totally. Yeah, I mean that goes into. I mean, I remember I would play in punk bands, and punk shows. We would have 10 bands on one card, so I would get to watch like 9 other punk drummers, and each one of them every night. I mean, every time we played a gig, every drummer was completely different, even though it sounded like, to sort of like a layman's ear, it probably sounded all the same. But when you're actually watching the drummers, you think, like some of us would be playing the exact same beat, but in a different way, like physically, like
yeah,
open-handed, or, just doing different things, even though it sounds exactly the same. So you pick up all these different techniques that you just would never, ever try on your own.
yeah. Yeah, that's also how, like, every incarnation of my drum setup was modeled after something I had seen in Modern Drummer, or in a live concert video or at a show. There was one bit where this one guy had his ride cymbal like way up to his right, and it was like at a 90-degree angle, and I'm like, cranking on my ride like this, and then after a while I'm like, man, this is not ergonomically good for me. And it visually looked cool, but like the older that I get to, the more I'm like, what is practical? Like, I want to be able, everything is pretty symmetrical on my kit. Like, how can I, with the greatest amount of ease, move from thing to thing without a lot of thought, or catching on stuff, like, or without hurting myself.
Yes.
You know, when I did that Green Day show I was talking to you about, I was 42 or 43. And as I started practicing that stuff, I was like, wow, I'm going to have to stretch out before I play this stuff. And so there's still some stuff that I'll do in the Drumatic that I'm like, it's not that it's complicated, it's just really fast and heavy hitting. So I'll stretch out my quads and, you know, my inner thighs and my calves, and I do this a lot, like just to try to keep my arms loose. But yeah, it's funny. So I'm like, if I've got to stretch out, I don't need to be working really hard to reach stuff, you know, on the kit, right? Like I want it to be pretty easily accessible to me. And but yeah, but just so you're talking about learning technique, I mean, I experimented with so many different ways to set a kit up just from watching drummers that I like, you know, liked to listen to play when I was younger. And then you kind of find a thing that you're like, this is my safe place. Like this is comfortable for me and I like it. And I think the older you get, the more interested you are in the ergonomics of it and less about how bad does it look, you know. I mean, I still think it looks cool, you know, just
Yeah.
but it's very user friendly.
Yeah, man. I remember growing up during the grunge age, and I feel like all the grunge drummers back then had their snare really low and their hi-hats really high. And I wanted to be just like that. And nowadays, like I'll look at a drummer like Trey Bledsoe, and he's got his hi-hats really high. And it's just like, oh, I think I tried it once a couple of months ago, and I didn't record it or anything like that. I just wanted to see like how it felt, because I used to have it like that. I used to be like Dave Grohl and Dave Abruzzese from Pearl Jam, and have my hi-hats like eye level and my snare drum below my lap. And I tried it now, and I'm like, how in the world did I ever play like that? It just doesn't work. And then the
Yeah.
other day, I just recorded a cover, and I remember when I was in, you know, my prime, I was just like flailing arms, like banging my head back and forth. So I tried doing this for the video, and the next 3 days, my neck was completely sore.
Yes.
I was just like, why am I so sore? Like, what is, like, did I sleep wrong? And then I remembered I had to do the editing for the video, and I was like, it's because I was banging away with my head. My neck is all sore. I can't do that stuff anymore.
That's what it was. Yeah. I totally feel your pain. I get that. I get that so much. Is that Trey Bledsoe is just like not, I mean, he's such a great dude and he's so much fun to watch play. And like, he's like, yeah, he plays his hats, but he's got his snare up really high too. So the distance between them is probably normal. But yeah, I've tried that before, and I like to be able to like hit with the neck of my stick, you know, and then be able to kind of come up top, you know, if I want to do anything that's a little, you know, a little finessed on the top, you know, some closed rolls or double strokes on the, without having to be like, you know, this. So, but I think, you know, Trey, like any of us, like has found like a setup that he likes to play and that is comfortable. And so it works great for him. But I like, and dude, the dude's a beast of a drummer. He is amazing. And as a side note, one of the most humble guys I've ever talked with. Super, super down to earth, and been a big supporter of Loretta and I from the beginning. He's a really nice guy. Anyway, but yeah, so like if I tried to do that, it wouldn't work for me either. Like it's just, nope, this is my, you know, this is my my happy spot, like right here where it's almost not quite level, but like a little bit of like this, and then it's easy to get the stick flat on the top of the cymbal if I, you know, if I want to. But
yeah, man, it's good stuff. Well, I have one more question. I know we're getting up there in time, but I really like to ask because I feel like I can get a good insight into a person when I find out whether or not they're a Coke or a Pepsi guy.
Coke. Yeah.
Yes.
Is that the right answer? No, that was an honest answer. An honest
I'm
answer for
totally a
sure.
Coke guy. Yeah. That's cool. So wait, like regular Coke, or you go the diet route, or the Coke Zero, or?
Well, I go the Coke Zero. It's been a long time. Well, once in a while I'll do like a fully leaded, diesel pop, right? Like where it's got all the sugar, and my stomach is like, holy moly, like wow. But even at a Coke Zero level, like if somebody's like, well, we have Pepsi Zero, and I'm like, okay, and I'm like, no, it's not the same. I think that I'll drink Coke Zero over Pepsi Zero, and I'll drink regular Coke over Pepsi. But I will say this, and this is totally not important to anything except for this very specific part of the conversation. Dr. Pepper Zero is the most accurate to how regular Dr. Pepper tastes, in my humble soda pop opinion. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. If I haven't drank a Dr. Pepper probably in more than 2 decades. But yeah, that's
All right.
interesting to know.
Sometimes it's just what the doctor ordered, right? Like what?
Yeah.
No, this is not a paid promotion for Dr.
Yeah.
Pepper or Coke or Pepsi in this video.
Cool, man. Well, is there, like, I guess we all have to ask this, but is there anything else that you wanted to talk about as far as, your drum company, your channel, anything new coming up, anything exciting, or more of the same, or what's going on?
Yeah, man. So about the drum company, thanks for asking. Thank you, anybody that's stopped by the website or sent us a message, even just to inquire or, get a quote, or we really appreciate like all of that. And again, if you are interested in a kit or a snare and you mention KMKanDrum's interview with us, we'll give you 10% discount. Woohoo. And as far as the channel goes, we're still doing, we actually plan out pretty far, and then we kind of adjust as we need to or want to. But we did just tease today that in July, we're going to do an Eric versus Loretta song battle segment, because we just wanted to do something different and thought it would be fun. And I totally stole the idea from somebody else, but not from some radio station that was doing this. I'm like, this is fun. I want Loretta and I to do this, and our buddy Ash Wells is going to host it for us. So it's completely fair, and Loretta can't cheat. And I'm just she would definitely not be the one trying to cheat. She's going to kick my butt. And we're only going to do it like 3 times a year, I think is the plan, because we don't want it to be a constant thing, because, like creating content takes time. And so, and I'm also going to try, just for fun, with another friend, to do a reaction video and just kind of see how that goes. We've been doing shorts, which could be subtitled "How Badly Eric Sucks at Double Bass," but that's been a helpful thing. But we're gonna add the song battle thing, which is going to be super fun. And I always like to get Loretta on the channel as often as she allows me to put her out there, because like I think she's just so much fun. And ever since she started sharing, that's been a positive experience for her. And we even had somebody, and I love this, no offense was taken by me to this comment, but we had this one sweet gal, Ruby C drummer, that loves Loretta to death. And the first time Loretta spoke, she said, "You should let Loretta talk more often." And I was like, I would let her talk every time if she would do it. And then I would share the next week, and she'd be like, "That was good, but also let's hear from Loretta again." And I was like, "Yeah, that's great. I love that." So the song battle thing, I'm particularly excited about that. That'll be fun and just something different to throw onto the channel. And really, it's just to keep us. The drum covers are always fun and interesting. That hasn't lost any kind of excitement for us yet. So our bonus content, as we refer to it, is just kind of like, well, what else can we do that we think is creatively interesting, and also that we can cut if life demands more of our attention somewhere else. So our only real commitment is to the drum covers. Everything else is bonus material. So if something has to go for time, or we dealt with, mom's had health issues this year. So we cut back how many interviews we were doing. Because it's time consuming and it's fun, but it's time consuming. So I guess just in the future, man, we're just going to keep trying new fun stuff. There's going to be more and more drum covers, and hopefully in the not too distant future, I'll be doing drum covers on one of our drum kits.
Yeah, nice. So what about because I as I mentioned before, I watch a lot of YouTube, watch a lot of different YouTubers and whatnot. A lot of them that are on the higher levels, they have other places where you can find content of theirs, like they'll do like a Patreon, or they'll be on Vimeo for stuff that you can't put on YouTube. Do you have anything like that going?
Well, yeah, we do have a Patreon, and we are thankful for our one patron, Charles. We love you, man, and we appreciate your 3-year-long support of what we're doing. I struggle with the content for it. We try to keep it real simple, just like a place for people to be like, hey, I like what they're doing, I want to give them $1 a month or whatever. And with the content we're creating on our channel, to create totally different content kind of overwhelmed. So we decided we were gonna, at the beginning of this year, we were gonna do, we took did a poll on YouTube, and to my surprise, the majority of the votes were cast for Eric and Loretta reading a devotional once a week, from something we were reading through. So we did that for 4 weeks, and then we got busy and forgot to record more. So in an ideal world at our Patreon, every other week, Loretta's reading a devotional, and then the other weeks I'm reading one. And then once a month, we try to do like a sneak peek in terms of telling everybody what's coming down the pipeline for the next month in terms of songs that we're doing in the Drumatic and stuff like that. So we need to be better about that. But if you would like to become a patron, we do put your name in the description of our video. It's the first thing anybody will see if they click on the description is our patron. So
cool. Yeah, I just any closing thoughts or anything before we wrap this thing up?
Man, have fun doing what you're doing. Do what you love to do. In this case, it's probably drums if you're watching this video. And if you've hung in with us this long, I'm nominating you for sainthood. Send me a message, because I will talk and talk and talk. But yeah, man, if you love playing the drums, just do it. Don't wait for anybody to ask you to do it. Just do it because you love it. If you want to make drum covers, work with what you got. You don't need a bunch of fancy equipment. Just start doing it, and then add as you go, right? So and then if you want to really play drums outside of that, definitely learn to play with people. That's such a big tool that Kelly had brought up, and so I encourage you in that too. There's always people looking to start a band. I feel like in any community, at varying levels of skill, so just put yourself out there, and whatever it is you're doing, I'm going to quote Kelly: if you quit, you'll never know how close you came to succeeding. So definitely don't give up. Like, if you love it, stick to it even when it's hard. And those are my words of wisdom, half of which were borrowed from you.
Well, I'll add one more thing too. If you do start playing drums and you're going onto YouTube and you stumble upon your little YouTube video, I hope you understand that there's a whole community of people that are willing to just reach out. And if you reach out to them, they are as nice as Eric, and as open and as communicative to just helping out. And I think that's the best thing about this drum community, is everyone helps out. Everyone, for the most part, is constructive criticism and positivity. Once in a while you'll get your trolls and whatnot. But you know,
Yeah.
90% of the time, I think 99% of the time, I'll go out and say it's constructive or it's positive, and it's just amazing. So
Yeah.
yeah, just reach out to Eric, reach out to me, or anyone in this community, and you have a wealth of knowledge at your fingertips.
Yeah, that's good, man. We have a great community for sure.
Awesome community. Eric, man, this was so awesome. I wish we could do this every week, man.
I feel like we could fill months worth of of weeks, like talking about different life things, different drum things. So man, thanks for having me on. Thanks for letting me talk and rabbit trail on stuff. It's your man. You're just so easy to talk to, and I value the connection that we've made. And again, I love what you're doing on your channel. And if you're stumbling on this and you don't subscribe to Kelly's channel, you need to do that immediately, because it's fantastic.
Likewise. Let's just do a bunch of subscriptions all over the place. Call it a day.
Yeah.
All righty, man. Well, it was good having you, and hopefully we can do this again soon and get an update on the channel and all that. But as for now, yeah, I'm gonna call it quits, and just have a great day, man. I'll be talking to you soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you.
All righty.